Tesseran Station hung in the silence between two cold stars, a vast wheel of pale alloy turning against the dark. For nearly 400 standard cycles, the station had served as the Yathari Compact's quietest trade post, a neutral hinge where small powers came to barter spice, software, and seed. No one expected history to land here. Yet here it came, drifting in on 3 modest vessels with hulls the color of weathered bone. Envoy Solinvar stood at the receiving dock with her 4 lower limbs folded in the formal welcoming posture. She was an elder of her species, her skin a soft lavender that paled toward her throat. Above her translucent membrane, an array of small scribes hovered, recording every breath. The compact had waited 11 cycles for this meeting. The humans were finally here. The airlock cycled, steam hissed, 3 figures stepped through. They were taller than Solinvar had imagined, but not towering. Their movements were measured, almost gentle. The lead human wore a simple dark coat with a small pin shaped like a sun. He raised his open palm, the gesture the Yathari liaison team had taught him during the long radio exchanges. "Envoy Solinvar," he said, voice translated cleanly through her ear bead. "I am Ambassador Adrian Vega of the United Earth Coalition. On behalf of my people, thank you for receiving us." She returned the gesture. Her primary heart, low in her ribcage, eased its rapid drumming. The humans had brought no armed escort, no banners, no display ships. The 3 vessels in the bay were trade-class freighters, their hulls scored with the kind of micrometeor pitting that came from decades of honest work. This was a good sign. The compact had feared the worst. For 3 rotations, Yathari analysts had argued over what humans might bring. Some had whispered of warlike origins, citing the storm of electromagnetic chatter that had leaked from the human homeworld 2 centuries earlier. Others had pointed to the careful, almost shy approach of the human probes that had emerged from their cradle system. The arguments had grown sharp. Solinvar had insisted on patience. She felt vindicated now. Ambassador Vega's companion stepped forward, a small woman with copper hair and laugh lines around her eyes. A taller man, dark-skinned, with the bearing of someone who had spent decades behind a steering yoke. "Captain Iris Halloway, cultural attaché," the woman said, bowing in the Yathari fashion. The bow was imperfect, but the effort touched Solinvar. "Admiral Thomas Reyna," the older man added. His handshake was warm. "I command our small flotilla. Mostly I am here as a witness." An admiral, then, but he wore no medals, no badges of rank. Solinvar noted this with quiet approval. She led them through the curved corridors of the station, past murals of Yathari poets and looms of woven memory thread. Other compact delegates emerged from doorways to bow as the humans passed. Councillor Vrentho, the trade master, fluttered his speech fronds in welcome. The healer adept Miss Hoon offered a sprig of pale herb. "Your people are kind," Captain Halloway said. Her eyes were wet. "We were not certain anyone would meet us this way." "Why would we not?" Solinvar asked. "Because the universe is large," Halloway said, "and small things often vanish in it." In the audience hall, the formal exchange began. Songs from both species filled the curved chamber. A human cellist played a piece called the Saraband, and 3 Yathari elders wept openly at the slow rise and fall of its lower notes. Mathematical proofs were traded across the table, gifts in their own right. Admiral Reyna spoke little. He watched. He smiled at the right moments. He laughed when Vrentho told a joke about a merchant who had tried to sell sand to a desert priest. Solinvar felt a warmth she had not felt in many cycles. Perhaps, she thought, the galaxy was not so cruel after all. It was during the 3rd hour of the exchange that the proximity klaxon began to wail. Councillor Vrentho's fronds went stiff. A scribe drifted close to Solinvar's ear and whispered the impossible. An unscheduled jump signature had bloomed at the system's outer edge. It was not Yathari, it was not human. It was Krell. The wail of the alarm cut through the song mid-note. The human cellist's bow froze above the strings. Counselor Vrendho's fronds drew tight against his crown, and Solinvar watched her colleague stiffen around the table. "Forgive me, Ambassador," she said, rising. "Something has happened. I must consult." Ambassador Vega rose with her. "May we be of assistance?" "It is likely nothing," Vrendho murmured, though his throat pulse said otherwise. "A merchant convoy off schedule, a pilgrim ship lost in transit." Admiral Reyna had not stood. He sat with his hands folded over the table, watching the proximity feed that had bloomed across the wall screen. His face was calm in a way that struck Solinvar as unusual. She had been a diplomat for half her life. She knew the small, pinched look that people wore when they understood a problem before others did. The admiral, she realized, was not surprised. "Get us the signature read," Counselor Vrendho snapped to the station's overseer. The overseer's voice came back tight. "Mass profile of a battleship class, 3 escorts. Drive harmonics match the Krell Dominion catalog." A small breath escaped Captain Halloway. She glanced at the admiral. He gave a small nod and she looked away. The Yathari delegation went quiet. Solinvar felt her secondary heart, the slow one, begin to pound. "The Krell have no permission to enter this region," she said, almost to the room. "We have treaties, we have boundary glyphs." "They have come anyway," said Vrendho. She turned to the humans. "Ambassador, I must apologize. This is not a meeting the Compact arranged. The Krell are an empire of the inner spiral. They do not knock when they visit a new species. If your people are unknown to them, they will assume claim by precedence." "What does claim by precedence mean?" Captain Halloway asked, though her voice told Solinvar she already understood. "It means," Vrendho said heavily, "that the Krell will demand humanity become a vassal. They will offer protection. They will tax you. If you refuse, they will erase the offering and take what they want." A scribe drifted close to Solinvar. The Krell flagship had entered visual range. Admiral Reyna finally spoke. His voice was quieter than the alarm but somehow filled the chamber. "Envoy, Counselor, do the Krell know we are here?" "They will by now," Solinvar said. "How long until they arrive at the station?" "Less than 1 rotation. Their tactical pattern is to approach the strongest point of resistance and break it." The admiral nodded. He drummed his fingertips once on the table, a soft rhythm. "What do you advise, Envoy?" She looked at him. The question was strange. He was an admiral. He had 3 ships. He should be issuing orders to flee, not asking advice from a host who had failed to protect his delegation. "I advise that you accept compact escort to the Rim," she said. "We will hide your ships among ours. We will lie about your origin. The Krell may take time to find your homeworld. We can buy you cycles." Captain Halloway's eyes shimmered. She reached across the table and touched Solinvar's lower hand. The contact was warm. Human skin always was, a small and surprising thing. "You would risk your station for us," she said. "We met 3 hours ago." "You played the saraband for us," Solinvar answered. "You wept at our looms. You are not strangers anymore." Admiral Reyna's gaze settled on the Yathari envoy with a weight she could not quite measure. "Thank you, Envoy. We accept your kindness, but we will not run." Vrendho's fronds flared. "Admiral, you do not understand what the Krell are. They have crushed empires 3 times the age of your written language. Their flagship alone could level this station." "I understand them better than you think," Reyna said softly. He looked at Captain Halloway. She looked back. Some small communication passed between them, a thing of long acquaintance. "We will ask them to leave," Reyna said, politely. Solinvar stared at him. She had spent a lifetime reading faces. The human admiral was not boasting. He was not frightened. He was something else, and she could not name it. The proximity feed pulsed. 6 more Krell signatures had emerged from jump. The first warship would arrive within the hour. The Krell flagship was a black mountain dragged through the dark. Even at this distance, it filled the station's outer scopes, a long, hammer-headed thing built from layered armor and old triumphs. Plates of welded ship hide hung from its flanks like the trophies they were. Each plate had once been the prow of another species' last warship. Solenvar had seen images. Seeing the true vessel was a different experience entirely. Sovereign Threlkar himself spoke to the station from the bridge of that monster. His face filled the comms array, broad and gray and tusked, with eyes the color of dried blood. His armor was carved with the family glyphs of 18 species that no longer existed. "This is the hammer Koras of the Krell Dominion," he said. The translation came thick. "We are here for the new species. We claim them by precedence. Yathari Compact, you will withdraw to a respectful distance. Humanity, you will present your highest leader for the oath of vassalage." Solenvar stood at the diplomatic dais beside Ambassador Vega. Admiral Reyna stood half a pace behind, hands clasped at the small of his back. "Sovereign Threlkar," Solenvar said, fronds arched in formal protest. "This station is in neutral space under compact charter. The humans are our guests. They are not yours to claim." The warlord's mouth split open in something that was not a smile. "Envoy, your charter is paper. My ship is metal. We have done this dance for 3 of your generations. Step aside." "I will refuse." "Then you will burn with the human freighters." Vrentho was already moving, ordering the station's small fleet of patrol corvettes to evacuation positions. The Compact's combined warships were 2 systems away. Help, if it came, would come too late. Ambassador Vega stepped forward. His voice was steady. "Sovereign, I am the appointed voice of my people. I will speak now." "Speak," Threlkar said with hungry interest. "But know that your words do not change the outcome. Either you kneel or you die. Choose with grace." "We will do neither," Vega said. "We have come to this station in peace. We have made a friend in the Yathari. We will leave the same way we came." Threlkar laughed. It was a deep, ugly sound. Behind him, his bridge crew laughed in echo. 3 freighters, 3. Are these your warships, human? Do you mean to ram me?" Captain Halloway had moved to stand beside the admiral. Her hand brushed the back of his, a small gesture of solidarity. Solenvar saw it. She did not understand why the gesture chilled her. "Sovereign," Vega said, "we are asking you to withdraw. We will not ask again." The laughter on the Krell flagship doubled. "You amuse me, small one. Tell me, how do you plan to enforce a request you cannot back? With song, with your wet eyes. Look at your station. Look at your hosts. Your hosts cannot save you. They are praying to their loom gods right now that we will be merciful." Solenvar did not look at the admiral. She was afraid to. Vrentho hurried back to the dais, fronds shaking. "Envoy, we have a window. The patrol corvettes can pull the human freighters into a slip shadow. The Krell will pursue, but we may delay them long enough for the humans to jump." "Counselor," Admiral Reyna said quietly, "that will not be necessary." "Admiral, with the deepest respect, you do not seem to grasp the situation." "I grasp it," Reyna said. He looked at Threlkar's image on the screen. He raised his voice, courteous, almost gentle. "Sovereign, I am Admiral Thomas Reyna of the United Earth Coalition. May I have 5 minutes of your patience?" Threlkar's tusks gleamed in the calm light. 5 minutes, for what human, to say your farewells? "To resolve this." A pause. Then Threlkar leaned back on his throne of welded thrones and waved a clawed hand in lazy amusement. 5 minutes. I am generous. After that, the burning begins. "Thank you, Sovereign," said Admiral Reyna. He turned away from the screen, looked at Captain Halloway, and said, in a voice the Yathari translators barely caught, "Wake her up." Solenvar did not know what Captain Halloway pressed inside the small dark device at her wrist. But somewhere far above the station, in the darkness between the cold stars, something heard the signal. And answered. 5 minutes is a strange unit. To a star, it is nothing. To a frightened diplomat, it is forever. Solenvar stood at the dais beside Captain Halloway, who had returned the small device to her wrist and folded her hands in her lap. Halloway looked tired now, though not afraid. The Admiral's eyes were on the deep scope readout, where the Krell fleet had begun to fan into an attack crescent. The Sovereign was generous, yes, but not foolish. He would use the 5 minutes to position his ships. Vren, though, was whispering urgent commands into the station's defense channel. The corvettes had begun a slow drift outward, hopping to keep themselves between the Krell and the human freighters. 3 other compact delegations had requested permission to leave. Envoy had granted it without rancor. She would not ask anyone else to die at her station. She turned to the Admiral. "Whatever you have planned, you should tell me. If we are to die together, I would like to know why." Reyna looked at her with something that was almost kindness. "We will not die today, Envoy," he said. "I am sorry to have brought this to your doorstep. We did not invite the Krell, but we did expect them." "You expected them." "We have known about the Dominion for many years. We have studied them. When we sent our first probes into the wider galaxy, we were quiet because we wished to listen. We listened to the songs of small species being ground to dust. We listened to the silence after." "Then why come at all?" Envoy asked. "Why not stay hidden?" Captain Holloway answered for him. Her voice was low and rough. "Because we needed to know who you were." "Who I was?" "Yes, who would receive us without armies, who would offer to hide us with their own bodies, who would weep at our music. We needed to find friends, Envoy. We do not believe in alliances of fear. We believe in alliances of trust. So we came as small things and we waited to see who would offer us a hand." Envoy's fronds drooped. The shape of the conversation was tilting under her. And if no one had offered? "Then we would have left," Holloway said. "Returned home, sent our probes elsewhere, tried again with another species." "And if the Krell had come, and the Yathari had abandoned you?" Holloway looked at the Admiral. Reyna gave a very small nod. "Then we would not have welcomed the Yathari into what comes next," she said. "But you did not abandon us. You stood with us when we were 3 small ships at your station. We will not forget." A chime sounded on the Admiral's wrist. He glanced down. His shoulders did not change, but the cant of his head shifted by half a degree. "2 minutes, Envoy," he said. "I would ask you to send a signal to your remaining ships. Tell them to move their formation 30 degrees off the ecliptic. They will be safer there." "Safer from what?" "From debris," the Admiral said. Across the comms array, Sovereign Threlkar's broad face filled the screen again. "2 minutes, human. Have you written your surrender, or shall I write it for you?" "You may have the floor in 2 minutes, Sovereign," Reyna said. "Until then, please enjoy your hospitality." Threlkar's grin grew. "I will, and after I will enjoy your homeworld." The screen dimmed. The dais was quiet. Envoy sent the order to her ships, 30 degrees off the ecliptic. She did not know why. She trusted against all training the man with the calm hands. Vren, though, slid up beside her. His fronds trembled. "Envoy, we are about to witness something we do not understand." "I know. Should we be afraid?" She did not answer. Captain Holloway turned to face the wide observation window of the dais. Outside, the cold stars wheeled. The Krell ships hung black against them, vast and confident. The chime sounded again. The Admiral lifted his chin. "Time," he said softly. "Iris." Captain Holloway opened her mouth, perhaps to issue another command. She never finished the word. Because at that moment, 300 kilometers off the station's port flank, the dark itself bent. Not opened, not parted. Bent like a sheet drawn aside by a careful hand, and something behind the dark stepped out into the light of the cold stars. Envoy's fronds went numb. The dreadnought came out of stealth not as a ship but as a wound in space. The fold of dark unpeeled from its hull in long ribbons, and what stood beneath was a thing the size of a small moon, 8 kilometers from prow to stern, perhaps more. Her station scopes had no setting for an object so large. It was not sleek. It was not pretty. It was a fortress carved from cold purpose, plated in armor over armor, its flanks studded with cannon batteries that were themselves the size of frigates. Hangar bays opened like patient eyes along its lower spine. Massive engine bells, dormant now, glowed faintly blue. Where the hammer chorus was a hammer, this was the anvil the gods would have used to break the world. Across the comms array, the Krell bridge had gone quiet. The laughter had stopped. Sovereign Threlkar was on his feet, his clawed hands gripping the throne. His face, on the screen, had drained of color. His tusks worked in the open air as if he were trying to speak, and could not find which language to fail in first. The dreadnought rotated. The motion was small and surgical, less a turn than the slow lift of a chin. Its prow swung to face the Krell fleet, and from somewhere within its hull, a single low pulse of light passed along its length and faded. A heartbeat, slow and unhurried. The station went quiet. Vrenthos Franz stood straight up. A name had been painted along the dreadnought's flank in stark block letters. The translation corps in Solinvar's earbead chewed on it twice before it caught. Iron Vesper. Captain Halloway lifted a small communicator to her mouth. Her voice was steady. "Commander Asari," she said, "you are clear to address the Sovereign." A new voice opened on the station's screens. The image cut to a small, slight woman with hair the color of Black River ice, seated in a command chair that looked too large for her. Her face was unsmiling but not unkind. Her eyes were tired in the way of people who had seen this exact moment many times. "Sovereign Threlkar," she said, and her voice was an even alto. "This is Commander Yuna Asari of the Iron Vesper. On behalf of the United Earth Coalition and its sovereign protectorates, I am here to ask you, very politely, to power down your weapons systems and depart this region." Threlkar stared at her. Behind him, his bridge officers had not moved. One had dropped a stylus, and it floated freely in the low-gravity well of the flagship. Where Threlkar began, his translator clicked. "Where did your ship come from?" "It has been at this station for 3 days," Commander Asari said. "Waiting." "That is impossible. My scopes." "Your scopes are old," she said gently. "Older than you know. Please understand, Sovereign, that I am asking, not telling. You have 1 minute to choose." The image cut. The screen returned to Threlkar's bridge. The warlord's tusks worked. He had spent his life issuing ultimatums. He had not been on the receiving end since he was a young pup. He did not know how to wear the role. He turned to one of his officers. He barked an order. The officer hesitated. That was the answer, Solinvar realized, the hesitation. In a Krell command, hesitation was death. Threlkar saw it too. His eyes burned. He turned back to the screen. "You are bluffing," he said. "Your ship is large, but a hull is not a war. We are 7 warships of the Hammer Fleet. Your Iron Vesper cannot kill us all." Commander Asari's image reappeared. "Sovereign, I have no intention of killing you all. I have an intention of disabling your fleet, recovering your crews, and returning you to your space with a message for your council. The message is this: the Coalition is open to trade. The Coalition is not open to claim. This is provocation." "This is courtesy," Asari said. 20 seconds, Sovereign." Threlkar's mouth twisted. Pride is a chain. Solinvar watched it pull him under. He raised his clawed hand. "All ships," he barked, "fire." The Krell fleet opened up. The Iron Vesper did not flinch. Its forward armor flared as kinetic rounds and energy lances struck home, and a soft shimmer of deflection panels lit along its prow. The damage, what little there was, glowed and faded. Then the dreadnought answered. The Iron Vesper did not shout when it spoke, it whispered. Along its dorsal spine, a row of long, slender turrets pivoted with insectal precision. Not the great battery cannons, those remained quiet, draped in their plating like sleeping animals. These were smaller, precise, surgical, each turret aligned to a different Krell warship. The first pulse left the Iron Vesper as a hair-thin line of white. It crossed the gap between the dreadnought and the nearest Krell frigate in less than a breath, struck the frigate's bridge dome, and continued through the ship and out the other side. The frigate did not explode. It simply went dark, its engines coughing into silence, its weapons drooping mid-fire. Its crew, Sol Envar would later learn was unharmed. The pulse had taken only the command and control systems, threading the ship like a needle through cloth. A second pulse, a third, a fourth. Each Krell warship lost its bridge in the span of a Yathari heartbeat. The hammer cores itself fired everything it had. Plasma lances, mass driver slugs, swarms of attack drones poured from its underside. The Iron Vesper's deflection lattice danced bright. Some of the drones got through. Small craters bloomed along the dreadnought's flank, the size of houses. Each one closed inside a breath, repaired by tiny silver shapes that scuttled across the hull like patient beetles. Commander Asari's voice came across the open channel, unhurried. Sovereign Threlkar, power down, final warning. Threlkar's image was contorted, spit flecked his tusks. Destroy them, ram if you must. The Iron Vesper extended a single long boom from its underside. Sol Envar watched in mute horror as the boom unfolded, segment after segment, until it stretched nearly a third of the way to the Krell flagship. From its tip, a great mass of cold blue light gathered. It did not crackle. It did not roar. It hummed. Even at this distance, Sol Envar felt the hum in her secondary heart. A small pulse left the boom, not a beam, a bubble. It drifted across the gap, lazy, almost casual. It touched the hammer cores. The Krell flagship's power signature collapsed. Lights died, engines stalled, gun batteries drooped in their housings. The boarding claws along its flanks went slack. The great hammer became, in a breath, a great hulk drifting on momentum. The dreadnought retracted the boom. A new whisper of light passed along the Iron Vesper's spine, the slow heartbeat again. It looked, to Sol Envar, almost like patience. Commander Asari's voice came once more. Not on the open channel this time. On the Krell flagship's command frequency, riding past their dead encryption like a key in a known lock. Sovereign, she said, your fleet is mine, your ship is mine, your air is mine when I choose. I have not chosen yet. Issue your surrender. The Krell bridge was full of officers staring at nothing. Threlkar stood in the dim emergency light of his own command throne. His tusks gleamed wet. He looked, in that moment, less like a warlord and more like an old soldier who had outlived the war he understood. You have not won, he said. You have not won. I have not tried to win, Sovereign. I have tried to be heard. Will you take my message to your council? Silence on the Krell bridge. Then finally, the Sovereign sat down. His clawed hand went to his brow in a Krell gesture Sol Envar had not seen in 3 cycles of diplomacy. It was the gesture of acknowledgement, the gesture of a soldier who had been told a true thing by another soldier. I will take your message, he said. What is it? Commander Asari's face on the screen did not change. That the United Earth Coalition wishes peace, that we are open to trade, to friendship, to embassies, that we do not seek a war with the Krell Dominion, and that if a war is brought to us, the Iron Vesper is not the largest ship we have. Threlkar closed his eyes. I will carry the message, he said. Captain Halloway lowered her communicator. Admiral Reyna's hand had not left the small of his back through the entire engagement. The Krell fleet drifted, the Iron Vesper waited, the cold stars wheeled on. Sol Envar realized she had not breathed in a long while. She breathed now, a long shuddering thing. Her fronds curled inward like a child's. She turned to the Admiral. Who are you? She whispered. Reyna looked at her, and his eyes were kind. We are your friends, Envoy, he said, if you will still have us. 3 days passed before the Krell fleet limped out of the system, escorted at a respectful distance by Iron Vesper drones that ensured no malfunctions, no accidents, no last acts of pride. Sovereign Threlkar himself signed the compact's diplomatic register before he departed, his clawed signature fierce against the page. He had asked before leaving to meet Commander Asari in person. She had granted the request. They had spoken for an hour in private. He had not smiled when he left. But neither had he frowned. The Yathari Compact's senior council arrived on the second day, a procession of 7 gilded vessels. Their elders walked the corridors of Tessaran Station with the careful steps of people stepping over the edge of a new world. They asked many questions. The humans answered each one. On the third evening, Envoy Solinvar found Admiral Reyna alone on the observation deck. He stood with his hands clasped behind him, looking out at the great dark shape of the Iron Vesper. The dreadnought no longer hid. It hung at a polite distance, its running lights soft and steady. Up close, it looked even bigger. "Admiral," she said. "Envoy." She joined him at the window. They watched the ship in silence for a time. "You told me," she said at last, "that the Iron Vesper is not the largest ship you have." "I did. Is that true?" He turned to her. His face was tired. The mask of the modest diplomat had loosened. Underneath, she saw a man who had carried a heavy weight a long way. "Envoy," he said, "we are a young species, but we are an old fearful one. We grew up in a small place. We learned the hard way how easy it is for the strong to take from the small. When we looked at the galaxy and saw the Dominion and the four powers like it, we made a choice." "What choice?" "That we would never be small." He looked back at the dreadnought. "The Iron Vesper is the third largest ship in our home defense fleet. There are 2 others. There are 8 more like the Vesper. There are 62 cruisers. There are 1,000 corvettes. There are 11 shipyards capable of producing a vessel like this within a single year. We did not build a navy, Envoy. We built a wall, and then we built a fence around the wall, and then we built a moat around the fence." Solinvar's fronds had gone still. "And you came to us in 3 small freighters." "We came to you in 3 small freighters." "Why?" "Because if we had arrived in the Iron Vesper, you would have welcomed us. Of course you would. Anyone would. We do not want to be welcomed because we are feared. We want to be welcomed because we are good guests. So we hid the wall. We came as visitors. We let you see who we are before we let you see what we have. We needed to know if there were people in this galaxy worth standing beside. And if there had not been, then we would have gone home, Envoy, and we would have built a higher wall." She let out a long breath. The weight of the conversation pressed her lower limbs to the deck plate. "What now?" "Now," Reyna said, "the Yathari Compact as a friend, not a vassal, not a protectorate, a friend. The Iron Vesper will leave a small detachment in this system with your permission in case the Krell are slower learners than I hope, but the rest of my fleet goes home, and we will trade, and we will play more cellos at your tables, and when you are threatened we will come." She looked at him. "You will come from how far?" "Far enough," he said. "We have learned how to fold the dark, Envoy. We have been learning a long time. The galaxy is larger than even your records say. We are not alone in the wall building. There are old things out there that no one has spoken to. We will need each other before this is done." Solinvar pressed her open palm against the glass. The Iron Vesper hung beyond it, a black wall of patience and craft. "Why us?" she asked. "Why did you trust us with this truth?" Admiral Reyna's smile was small and warm. "Because you wept at our music, Envoy. And because when the storm came to your door, you offered to hide us inside your own house. We do not forget such things." He turned from the window. "Now," he said, "I believe Captain Halloway has been promising the counselor a second performance of the saraband. Shall we?" Solinvar followed him. Outside the great window, the cold stars wheeled and the dreadnought watched, and somewhere far behind it in the dark between systems, larger shapes still slept. The galaxy, Envoy Solinvar knew now, would never feel quite so empty again.